Good morning and happy Thursday to everyone in here. This is the Build Mastermind. Myself, Ed Stroud, Jim Black, and of course, my handsome husband, Michael, all get to co-host this every single month. It happens every week on Thursday, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time for those of you on the other side of the country. Um, this is all about us. This is all about professional, personal mastery in every realm. I think that the thing that all four of us have in common is that there's never an end date. There is never a time that we've reached a pinnacle of success that we are happy with. The second we get there, we're like, oh, wait, there's another peak. This was a false summit, right? So I think anybody in this space, in real estate, in the industry, probably has something similar to that, where like we've reached a goal, we've accomplished something, and we realize at that moment that it is more about the journey and who we're becoming than actually achieving the thing. But on the way there, achieving the thing day to day is incredibly important. So today we are talking about habits that we use to build success and building those habits and what that means. There's a couple of different frameworks that we really like to use. One of them started with the 6 F's, which was from our very good friend and all of our coach at one time, Eric Hatch. And that includes, see if I can get them all off memory here: friends, family, fitness, fun, finances.
Faith.
Missing one.
It's
Faith. Thank
faith.
you. Yes, faith. Exactly. Which is a framework that we've loved to use, that we've utilized a lot in regards to building in what we call balance. And we all know it's a little BS, but balance into our lives. We typically kind of call that harmony now, or integration. Michael and I have kind of in recent months upgraded into a little bit more holistic and simplifying this exact same concept of the 6 F's. And it's essentially the 4 B's. And we are now really, really hyper focused on the 4 B's. And those 4 B's are balance, being, body, and business. And those 4 B's in a company, they incorporate all of the 6 F's, and they become kind of the foundation with which we look at all of our entire life holistically. Anybody in this industry who's been in this industry for any length of time understands that this isn't just a job that we go to. This isn't just something that we do each day. Real estate in this industry becomes who we are. It is a lifestyle we subscribe to. It is interwoven in the mentality, in the thought process, in the schedule, in the family time, and everything that we do. There are ways to weave in and out of it. And so we do every single day. So with that being said, I want to have a conversation. I want participation. I want contribution. I'm going to open this up in each of these realms. I'm going to kind of frame what each of these areas are and what kind of habits we build in that particular area. So we're going to go through the 4 B's together. And if you've just joined us, these 4 B's include balance, being, body, and business. So the first one that I want to talk about, let's talk about body. Let's talk about how we take care of our body. Let's talk about how we treat our bodies. And when I'm talking nutrition, I'm talking sleep, I'm talking fitness, I'm talking, milestones in regards to how we think and treat our bodies, our physical beings. For me, a couple of incredibly foundational pillars in the habits that I've formed in regards to taking care of my body are, of course, the food that I ingest and the movement that I make. So my fitness routine has become an absolutely foundational part of who I am, who my identity is wrapped up with, and what really gets me going as part of my identity. So for me, I'm not someone who can wake up at the exact same time every single day. I need a little bit of variation to build in rest and to bank sleep on the weekends. So for me, the habits that I've created are 2 weekdays that I get up very early to go for a workout. And I also work out on both weekend days. Now, on those days that I'm leaving very early, I have to bring food. I pack my entire day. I know exactly what meals I'm packing, what measurements those meals are going to be. And so it's become a foundational habit for me to know if I have to get up at 4 o'clock or 4:15 to leave for the gym on time, and I have to pack my meals the night before. So a foundational habit that I have created is regardless of how tired I am, regardless of if it's already just past my bedtime or not, I pack every single one of my meals the night before, both of those nights every single week. And that has become a foundational body habit that I have built. Jim, I know you've been back and forth and on and off and back in with your body habits. What are some of yours?
So I guess in some of it's experimentation, and I realized for me, I was doing the waking up at different times. Honestly, like I mentally, like I need to do the 4:30. Like I just like it just works for me. And
Mike's the same.
a bunch of our team members just committed to doing a 75 hard, which started yesterday. It's actually getting me to not like I will eat like I'll prep the meal, I'll do all that stuff, but then I'll eat the crap that's in front of me as well. And not doing that for a day and actually realizing that my water intake was not what I thought it was until I started measuring it, has gotten me feeling way better just the last 2 days. I got off of the actual like cardio. Like I'd go to the gym and lift 5 or 6 days a week, but I would do no cardio. And I realized I felt like shit. And now, so I think we all have something that works for us, but when I first got into real estate, I just dove into real estate and didn't take care of my health at all. And that's not a very good strategy. And I got really, really burnt and really mentally in a bad spot. And, doing it this way and putting that fitness and nutrition first gives you the energies to do all the other stuff.
100%. Who else has built some body habits that have shown some signs of success in your life?
Keith has.
Let's hear it, Keith.
Yeah, for me, I've kind of trial and error. I used to try to get to the gym by myself all the time and be good for a month and then would fall off. But what I found was just finding a group of people that hold you accountable. And through that is like the class fitness that I do at CrossFit. So I've been there over 2.5 years now, been doing it, but been consistent with it every single week, going 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. But you're working out with the same people, so you're sharing the same gains, the same wins. And then if you don't show up, you're sharing the same harassment the next day when they're asking where you were. So for me, that was a big thing for me. And a lot of it for me was simplicity in the diet. So I would work with some coaches sometimes and they'd give me this whole diet plan. It was just too difficult for me to try to stay on. So for me, I do the same breakfast every day. I do the same lunch every day. And then for me, dinner times, I don't eat bad, but it's my time where I can experiment a little more. I'm a little more flexible when it comes to dinner. For me, that's been able to be easily maintained. One thing I need to work on now is the sleep portion of it. So I don't sleep enough. I know that I never have. So I need to figure out a way where I can get that into a habit as well. But
love it. Well, first of all, I can tell you're a CrossFitter because your shoulder caps and traps are looking on fleek, my friend.
they're very sore right now, though.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, those clean and jerks will get you all day long, right? And CrossFit, it's awesome. Well, one of the things that you said in there really stuck to me. One of the keys to building habits that actually like guide you to success is simplicity, right? Finding what is going to work for you and not continually trying to pivot to what the latest fad or what somebody else mentioned. Like, pick that thing and do that thing. Simple. Love it. Who else has built some good habits for their body?
I pack meals even when I'm not going to the gym. So like every day, I think there's a few exceptions here or there. Or like if I know if I'm going to be home all day, the next day I won't, but that's pretty rare. But I will pack my meals in their individual things even the night before so that in the morning I have to grab it and go. And there's no thought in what I'm going to eat or when I'm going to eat. It's literally just already done for me. That started when I started working with a coach who gave me a food plan that in order to eat when he wanted me to eat, which is way more frequent than I had previously done before working with him, I would need to have that prepared for me the next. I just didn't have time to put that together in the mornings. Mornings are like the most pinched time for me. So I find that I'm doing that even when I don't go to the gym. And it's really nice to just like in between these Zooms, just have the food there and I'm just going to eat it really quick. And then it saves me time later. So it's like nighttime gin makes tomorrow gin successful in, first of all, maintaining the plan that I am with my fitness coach, but then also being energized, because at this point my body's used to eating every 2 to 3 hours. And if I don't do that, I hit a wall real fast. And then my output for the rest of my day gets screwed over. So it's really putting in the work the night before, like you said, Rachel, even though you're tired, get it done, put it away. And then tomorrow, Jen, is going to be that much more set up for success.
100%. So one of the things, if this is something that you struggle with, right, like taking care of your body, and if you're coming in, like we're talking about the 4 main areas. So balance, being, body, and business, and we're talking body first. If this is something that you struggle with, there are kind of 3 different things that Jen touched on that I want to give you in regards to habits that I started with that have built that I've been able to build on with some success. Number 1 is, of course, preparation the night before. I love to use the analogy that Jen used as well, is that night me has great intentions. Night me is like motivated and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do all these things and I have all these big plans for tomorrow. Night me is like on point. Like night me knows what's up with the next day. Morning me, if you leave any decisions up to morning me, jack will get done. Nothing will get done. I will not go anywhere. If I have to make that decision, if I have to make that meal, if I have to choose whether or not I feel like going to the gym, it won't happen. So because I trust night me's decisions, night me sets me up for success. Morning me executes. So there's that. If you struggle with the consistent eating, right? I think that's one of the big things is when people start eating or start wanting to eat regularly, set alarms on your phone. Set alarms on your phone for when you need to eat. It is way too easy in this industry to go 6 hours through the day and all of a sudden you're starving and you've got brain fog and you don't understand why. And now you're struggling to find where you can fit in eating. Set alarms on your phone to eat your meals. Okay. So night me preps. I set alarms on my phone and I prep everything the night before.
I think
Okay.
for real estate, you run at the time of other people. I mean, we try and control our time, but at the end of the day, if it means closing a deal, you're going to run at the time of your client or, when you can get that contract sent over and so on and so forth. So there's so much that drives us to focus on achieving a lot of action when needed for driving revenue that we forget like to monitor how you are actually physically feeling. So you forget to drink your water and you forget to eat your meal. And then you'll realize like Anna's a showing partner. She's in the car all the time. I'm sure that's got to be something she has to be mindful of too. Like, okay, when am I going to eat in between all of these showings? So that is some forethought you certainly have to have the day before when you're looking at your calendar for tomorrow, as well as the alarms like Rachel's saying, because you'll look up and suddenly now you're operating at like 70% at best. That's not going to drive your revenue nearly as well as if you're operating at 100%.
100%. Exactly. Well, on that note, let's move right into business. B number 2. What are some habits that we have put into place or that you have put into place in order to continue to drive success in your business? For me, and these are very simple. They're very simple. But number 1 is a weekly assessment of my time. Where did I spend my time this last week? And then I'm going to do a calendar review. So number 2 is a calendar review for the next week. Did I honor the calendar that I had this last week? And is that going to reflect in the coming week, right? I think a lot of us will add, and which my third one is, of course, time blocking, adding time blocks in, realistic time blocks. Are adding those time blocks into your calendar, are you actually honoring those week to week? Because we can put them in our calendar. We can look at them as they come up. The reminder comes up 10 minutes before and does a little ding-a-ling on my desktop. Do I actually pivot to that activity? And one of the things that I've learned about myself is that I significantly overestimate what I can accomplish in one day but I significantly underestimate what I can accomplish in a week with the right organization. And so doing an assessment of your time from the week prior, looking at the calendar, did I honor those things? And then looking ahead, am I going to change any of these time blocks? Do I need to extend any of them? Do I need to shorten any of them? Do I need to move any of them? For some people, it works great to have kind of 3 different segments of the day, right? Where you've got your prospecting and then your current client follow-up and then your out appointment and showing. For some people, it works great to have days of the week where you focus on one thing or not. So let's talk about that. What does your calendar look like? What habits do you have in your day-to-day, in your business that's continue to drive revenue, to drive the business that you want?
For me, it's sticking. It's kind of a mixture of both. I touch all of my active clients on every Tuesday, so I'll check in with them, I'll send them listings, I'll do any action items from the weekend, and then every Friday I'll send them listings and try to set up showings for the weekend, and that works really well. If I stick to it religiously, it gets me the outcomes that I want. And then for a day-to-day basis, I usually do like all of the follow-ups, all of the office work in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'll save that for showings.
Mhm. So keywords there, you said, Anna. As long as I stick to those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tricky part.
Yeah.
Who else? What habits do you have in your business, whether they be calendar related, task related, day related, that's driving success?
Well, the stick to it part is a challenge depending on I think in all real estate, but depending on what you like what position you fill. So Anna's stick to it probably has a different set of kind of pulling away than a single agent would. And so like yesterday we had an event that all the salespeople on the team went to for the whole day. So if you have that calendar block on that day for every Wednesday, and now it's Wednesday and you're out of the office, okay, well that just got jacked up. So I mean, I've been married a long time, and my wife still asks me every time I leave, so what's your calendar look like today? And like right now, it literally might not have anything on it, but that could totally change by this afternoon. Because if the phone rings and I have a showing, now I have a showing. So it is it is kind of the push and pull of being really structured while being flexible at the same time. Because you gotta fit those things in, but you also have to be flexible.
I think that goes to what I was saying with the preparation and how mornings feel the tightest pinch. I think the afternoons are chaos, right? They could stretch, you could have free time, you could find yourself where you are anticipating, showing a few clients' homes, and then that doesn't end up being the case. So now you can fill that time with other time. But in the morning, it's almost like if you have your morning on lock and it's just starting at 8 a.m. this happens, then 9 this happens, then 10 this happens. By noon, you've just had a solid handful of hours that were ran precisely on lock. And if you can continue to do that on day this week to week, you'll have predictability of what output you can get. And most of the time we think that, while I said, yes, you're at the behest of your clients are also trainable. Like you can train your clients that you'll get to them at 11 a.m. right? Like if you're already working together, it's not a matter of you have to fit into their time for a new client consultation or something. You can train them to be like, I'll get to that at 11 a.m. Usually in real estate, there's nothing really that's going to be like an emergency, really, that can't wait until 11 a.m. So if you're able to really pack in your productive, deep work, prospecting, whatever it is that you need to do in your business into the morning hours and control that, then the chaos of the afternoon, like Chuck's describing, won't touch the productivity that you can count on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So I try to really book in my morning stuff with stuff I can count on each week. And of course I fall, I get like a text from a client. I'm like, I don't want to forget to do that. So that's why you can also put reminders in your phone. You could use the Do app if you're on Apple, which I always, the Novak shared with me. And I love that app. So check it out. But you have to push away stuff that's going to take you out of that controlled, productive time. And it in the morning is likely the most feasible time you can hang on to that.
Yeah, it's such a great point because I think that in real estate it is way too easy to spend your days being reactive to everything that comes up. Like that being reactive every single day is the fastest way to implode your business, right? It is maintaining the discipline to have at least 2 to 3 hours a day that are completely under your control, that you are doing revenue generating activities, that you are focusing on the prospecting, the follow-ups, the database integrity, and then addressing all the things that come up throughout your day, because nothing is going to be hair on fire important before 11 a.m. most of the time, right? The very few exceptions.
So I have one other little comment which kind of ties into the food prep that Jen talked about is the end of the day really making a decision, looking at my calendar, because a lot of times we have calendars that we don't follow perfectly, if we're honest with ourselves, and really making a conscious decision at the end of the day. This is what I'm doing in the morning. This is what I'm doing at 9 a.m. at 10 a.m. and not just saying I'm going to do the fluffy thing on my calendar, like I'm actually going to do it and protecting it. Because I know for me, if I'm driving in the office, by the time 7 a.m., 7:30 comes, I might have gotten a couple emails, some text messages, some phone calls. Chaos has already hit, and I have to know ahead of time that I'm not dealing with that yet. So for me, that's been, especially when I was really busy, I wrote out a list the night before. This is what I'm doing. When I'm done with this, I'll get to the shit that hit the fan.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, and it's going to be tied into business. It's also going to be tied into being for myself in regards to the 4 Bs. But it's the nightly brain dump. And that is a habit that I put into place a long time ago, years and years ago, where, every single night you're going to start winding down and getting ready for bed and then laying in bed. And maybe you're a Netflix watcher, to kind of like chill out and go like turn your brain off for an hour before you go to sleep. Or maybe you are a reader, or maybe you're a meditator, whatever it is. But regardless of what you do right before bed, that is the time that your brain always decides to remind you of all of the things that are coming up, that need to happen, that you need to address, that you forgot to do, that have to be addressed tomorrow, that person you need to text back, whatever it is, right? And so the habit that I got in, and this is one that everyone should adopt in my personal opinion, is having a nightly brain dump. Like open a note in your phone, or get a pen and paper if you're a physical writer kind of person, and literally just spit out on this piece of paper in your note everything that comes to your brain, every little thing. Client names, text back, I have to do this task, I forgot to text back that teacher, I got to pay the HOA dues, like all of the things in your life that come up every single day that are on the list to do. And then once you have it all spit out on a piece of paper, don't worry about the formatting, don't worry about the bullet point, don't worry about making it pretty. Get it all out of your brain first. Then you can go, and what I do is I utilize that list to add tasks into my Do app, DUE. It's like $8 for the year. Fantastic app. You can set recurring tasks. You can also set it for the future, timing, whatever. And then you can check it off when it's done. So I will take my brain dump and I will turn it into a priority to-do list with due dates. And then I can sleep completely sound. I don't have things rattling around in my brain. I don't have to stress out overnight about the thing that I might forget, because I always do if it's not written down. I have a way to get it out of my brain and onto paper so I know it will be addressed and I can sleep soundly. I think that's one of the biggest things that you can do in your business and in your being in order to maintain a relative level of the feeling of balance, so to speak. Anything else on the business side?
I have a question for Keith on what you just said, because I'm a terrible sleeper. Would doing the brain dump help you sleep better?
I think it'll definitely help. Mine is more of the time I get to bed. I need to start preparing for sleep much earlier than I do, and that's getting my family in line with that as well. So it's new habits for my family. But there are a lot of times when I sit there just thinking about everything. So that's definitely another habit I should take up as well.
Mm. Do you have a bedtime alarm?
I don't.
That's one thing that Novak does, and it quite frankly drives me nuts, but it works awesome. Where the alarm goes off, I'm like, oh, 8 o'clock. Let's go. Everybody in bed.
Hmm.
So you
It's
train
like that.
people in
It's like,
people.
yeah, it's like how you train. Like, I mean, we have little kids, right? So we like our 9-year-old
Yeah.
knows her bedtime, and it's like it's when that alarm goes off, everybody's like, oh, okay, like everybody's off to their bedtime. We give our kisses and goodnights and handshakes and do our thing, right? So it's kind of creating some sort of like sound trigger or trigger where you've got this is the time that this happens instead of just like relying on yourself to make sure to check the clock. That's not that isn't
Doesn't work.
reliable in my opinion. Yeah, it's not
Nope.
reliable. But having
Well,
a bedtime alarm has become reliable.
let's face it, those of us who know Mike as well as we know him, most of the things he says we kind of irritate us, but we know that the reason that they irritate us is because they're true and they actually work. We just don't want to do them necessarily. And then when we start doing them, hypothetically, like tracking your meals and weighing your food, and it really works, and it's like, oh wow, look at that. He was actually
Well,
right.
shoot.
Dang
Well,
it.
shoot.
He was right
Maybe he knows what
again.
he's talking about. Yeah, maybe he
Hey,
knows
but
what he's
don't tell
talking
him. He
about.
might hear us.
No, he can hear us. He can feel it. Yeah, I mean it is really and in Mike's case, the alarm doesn't have to go off for him to know that it's bedtime because he is like me, and as soon as he sits down, he's asleep.
Yes.
So that's kind of cheating. But with the family, if you have a spouse who is like a night owl and you want to go to bed at 9 o'clock, you're gonna have to get on the same page, or you're gonna be like, it's gonna be a pain. Or she, in your case, she's going to have to allow you to go to bed without her. If she's going to stay up, and like that's my wife's bedtime has come down to finally match mine, but it's taken a long time.
For sure. Well, on that note, let's roll right into balance, the third B. So we've covered body, we've covered business. Let's move into balance. Balance is, again, kind of BS. We just use it as an overarching, word to cover all the things. But I'm talking about intentional time with kids, intentional time in your marriage or relationship. I'm talking about intentional time with people you care about. I'm talking about intentional time for yourself. To be honest, this is one that I struggle with, especially the time for myself. And this is one thing that I'm putting into place now, that I have to take something that we're calling thought time. Right. Every single week, we ingest all these masterminds and we sit on these calls and we listen to amazingly smart people and we sit in these rooms and absorb all of this information. And we have all these interactions with clients and we have all these objections that we handle on the phone. But do you take 2 or 3 hours a week where you're able to reflect on that time, pull out things that you want to continue to move forward with, and relatively organize those thoughts? That's one thing that I am not very good at. Mike and I have put into place some fantastic habits for our marriage where we spend time together intentionally. We put into place habits with our kids where we each get kid time and take them out for a couple of hours at a time to spend intentional kid time. It's important to both of us that I know my kids as individuals, that I know what music they like and what their friends' names are and what they're into right now. And, those are things that for me, the balance part of life, like that's what we're here for, guys, right? Like all of this business and all this revenue that we're generating, these are all important things, but those are to drive a quality of life that we're really searching for, which is having that balance with our people. So what kind of habits have you put into place to emphasize the balance in your life with the relationships, with friends, with yourself? Silence from a bunch of realtors.
There are some things that I've put in place that have been working really well. And then there's some things that I know I need to do a lot better on. So the things that are working well, like Chuck, my husband and I are kind of on opposite schedules. And so he gets up a lot later than I do. He goes to bed a lot later than I do. There will be times when I'm in bed before he's even home from, because he goes to the gym in the night, at nighttime. So I told him last night, I was like, I'm going to be asleep before you get home. I'm exhausted. I had a very long day. And so we won't even see each other sometimes, like before I'm already in bed asleep. So to counterbalance that, we have very intentional, specific date nights. Like, and it's not so much like where you have to go out to dinner or do any event or anything, but literally like we're just going to be the two of us alone for X number of hours. We could go to dinner, we could do those things, but it's really that intentional time to realign and connect. And in those weeks where we are ships in the night, we know that we're going to get that time later. So it's something you can count on. And similarly, I do that with my son. So on Thursdays, which is today, is my out of office day. I'll see him in the morning. I know at night I'm going to be with him. We're going to cook dinner together. We know we're going to have like 30 to 40 minutes of a movie. We watch him in that little increment, and he looks forward to it as well. So we have this understanding. We've discussed it. We've talked about when's best fits. And I think that intentionality is really great. Similarly, we have once a week, we'll get together with my brother and sister-in-law who live down the road. So that's awesome. The things that I could do a lot better on, like what you've discussed, Rachel, is time for myself, where I can organize what it is I want to do. I feel massively disorganized in my personal future projections, and it's because I haven't taken intentional time to sit down and really organize my thoughts on things I have ingested, ideas I've had, what I actually desire to see change over the next quarter or year or whatever the case may be. And so I can only imagine what kind of trajectory I'll be able to apply when I do that. So that's something that I'm working on in the next 82 days to figure out how I can build that in and bake it in so that it doesn't remain neglected. So that's the one chink in my armor, is I haven't hammered out the ability to write my own SOP for that trajectory I want. And it comes from what you're talking about, intentional time, where you sit down and give yourself the moment to design what that looks like. It's too reactionary at this point. It needs to be designed moving forward.
Yeah. Well said.
I was thinking yesterday in the Tom Ferry event about a couple of things, but the quote, we always do what we most want to do, comes to mind in this conversation, in all of the things, so like Mike, Rachel, and I talked to an actual pro bodybuilder yesterday who's Tom Ferry's traveling coach. And he's looking at Mike and Rachel and he's like, are you guys competing? Blah, 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 conversation. And he asked me, like, are you thinking about competing? I'm like, no, I don't really want to put in the massive amount of time and energy to do that. Like, I want to be healthy, but I don't want to compete. And so like the difference between, like, we have to, and it's hard for me to actually get clear with myself, so Jen's talking about like getting clear with yourself. What is important to me? Like, what am I willing to actually put in the time to do, knowing there's a cost? There's a cost in your sleep. There's a cost in your, like, I can't just eat whatever I want any of the time I want to eat it. Like, I just can't go out to dinner anytime I want. All the things in our life, there's restrictions that we have to put in. And if we're not clear on what we want and what we want to get to, it's really easy to get derailed. It's really easy to get deep. So yesterday I took my meals to the event and somebody said, are you eating lunch? And I'm like, yeah, I'm eating lunch, but I brought my own meals. And they're like, oh, why is that? I said, well, I have another event tonight that is with my church community that I know is going to be off plan. And I don't want to have two off plan meals on the same day. So it's important to me, and we do what we want to do, we most want to do. And so I think that for me, it's really hard to know exactly what I want to do and what I'm willing to put in the work to do. When you get clear on that, I think it's easier.
Yeah. So probably similarly, building in, I mean, just like we have to be intentional with clients, we have to be intentional with prospecting time, we have to be intentional with, marketing time and follow-up time. Like these are all things that we know professionally in our business drive revenue forward and continue to move our business forward where we want to go. And if personally we're feeling the same, right? Do we want to continue in the trajectory? Is this what we still want our business to look like? Is this still what our body wants to look like? Do we still want our relationships to look this way? If we're not taking the same intentional time that we do for prospecting or for follow-ups with ourselves to, in Jen's point, create a trajectory or projection for our future selves, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So it's absolutely a habit that we should really build in, to have that weekly reflection and then projection time. Absolutely.
Well, and being really clear with yourself. So in my case, my wife says that I'm too big already. You're already too big. You're distracting. And I do the same thing. I laugh at her because I'm with Mike, so I'm not very big. But like it's even harder if we're not clear with ourselves in any of the things. What doesn't matter what it is. If we're not really clear with ourselves, it's even harder when somebody close to you, like, so for Keith, if his wife is saying, hey, stay up and watch this movie with me, if Keith isn't really clear that he needs to go to bed at this time to be the best version of himself tomorrow, he's going to get pulled into staying up to watch this movie because she's going to be saying, hey, oh, come on, it's just a couple hours, and then tomorrow's toast. So
for sure. So again, kind of back to simplicity, right? Like creating clarity. One of the things I love and I talk about a lot with the people that I mentor, especially on our team, is that clear is kind, right? Not just to those around us, but to ourselves as well. And so if we aren't focusing on clarity and creating simplicity in our daily habits and our weekly habits, we're going to miss the boat on massive potential over the next year, for sure. Anything else on this balance component?
there's a bunch of people on here that haven't talked. Are you going to call them out, Rachel?
I know these stinkers with all their cameras off. I tell you, they're just lurking. Harris, I'm proud of you.
It's hard to find a balance because like around dinner time and I get a call. It's because like I hate to miss someone's call and then have to call back. So like I always have to fight that urge. Oh, I gotta take that call. I really gotta find the balance of like when I'm eating dinner with my wife, gotta set everything aside, or like when it's nighttime and spend time with my family, forget about work and just focus on family.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that, Harris. Yeah, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that because I think a big part of balance, and I'm going to use this, but balance in our industry is knowing what season you're in, right? If you're in a season of building and if you're in a season of working to generate revenue and generate, as many past clients, right? Forever clients as possible, then balance is going to look a little bit different for you. Balance is going to look like your wife being understanding that you need to be taking those phone calls right now. It's going to look like I need to be taking these because it is what is going to create the life and create the stability that is going to pay off years down the road to have more balance in our relationship. And, it doesn't happen every night, I'm sure, but it's okay to say, hey, if this does happen, if this is a time sensitive situation, if this is in regards to a contract or in regards to a showing or, a response, like, setting the expectation with your family, like there are going to be times that I need to take those. And then there are going to be times when I understand that I don't, and I could call that person back depending on the situation. So knowing your season, knowing the urgency with which, that phone call may be coming in is a really important part of balance in this industry.
I think too, one thing that I've had a lot of success with is getting buy-in from my family. And this comes from looping them in, sharing that that communication of exactly what your world needs for that success for that revenue building, what that means for them. You know, like if you have shared goals, let's say you want to be able to go on take your whole entire family on a 2-week international vacation. And that's just not something you can put together right now because of your time or the funds or, whatever. But everybody wants that. You have a shared goal. You can sit down and say, okay, well, in order to do that, we all need to kind of have this. We need to save up time. We need to put these things in place. I need leverage. I need to have this much saved. And then when you get that call, you'd be like, this is so we can go to Maui, or this so we can go to Amsterdam, whatever the case may be. But having that buy-in where their goals are your goals and vice versa, then it's so much easier for them to be understanding, where your wife might even say, answer that. Go ahead and take it. And if you're not sharing that with them and looping them in, I even did that with my son when he was 6 years old and I moved to Washington. We sat down, I talked to him like he was a co-founder of our family business. And I said, this is what it's going to look like. And his little 6-year-old brain is like, okay, mom, like these are things that you can bring the people around you into. And if they love and support you and you have shared goals, they're going to understand the seasonality just as much as you will.
Absolutely. Good word, Jim. Well, I want to respect everybody's time, but I also want to touch really briefly on the final B. What a great conversation this has been. So recapping the 4 B's that we build our foundational habits on. Body was the first one we touched on, then business, then balance. And the 4th one is being. And that really, they all tie in together. They overlap in so many areas, but being in and of itself is our mental state, our spiritual state, who are we as a person. So for me, the couple of foundational habits that I've put in place in regards to the being is really focusing on the gratitudes, focusing on the affirmations of who I am and who I'm becoming. And, this is something that Michael and I have done and preached on for years and years and years. But putting that into action most recently, I've taken my gratitudes from putting them into a note privately to sharing them on my stories more publicly to taking the initiative to text those people I am grateful for every single day and building that foundational habit of gratitude. It's impossible to feel angry. It's almost impossible to feel really frustrated or really upset when you are adopting an attitude of gratitude. And so for mental health, for mental stability throughout your mornings, to be able to find something in your life that you're grateful for, especially guys in this industry, shit goes sideways daily, right? Stuff is always flying around. Stuff is always changing. We're always fielding stuff every afternoon. But if we can center and say, hey, you know what? I'm so grateful Michael and I got to go for a sushi date, and then we sat in the hot tub for half an hour and got to catch up on life and where we're going and goals and this. How grateful am I for that time that I got with you? And that right there, boom, like changes the state that I'm in. So that is one of the foundational principles that I have adopted as a habit in order to maintain a balance of my being. Anybody have any last words before I gotta respect people's time on this one, but it's been a good combo. Well, we'll end on gratitude then. I love it. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. I hope that everybody takes at least one thing out of today and implements something for a new foundational habit. We've got 82 days left of this year. That's plenty of time to build up some momentum for 2025. So let's get after it. Enjoy your day, guys.
Good day.
Have a good one.